Have you noticed how quickly the first half of the year disappeared? One moment it was January and the fresh energy came in, new intentions and new plans, and suddenly it's June. Where did this time actually fly around? I wonder. Half a year has passed already. And I don't know about you, but I looked at my goals, I looked at my vision board, and suddenly I realized actually I haven't done much. And it really struck me in that moment because it took so much energy away and I felt depleted and I felt like, wow, this is really disappointing and also frustrating. So maybe you started the year with full motivation like me and certain that this would be the year things would finally happen. Maybe you wrote goals down like me or created a vision board and promised yourself things would be different. But maybe life came quickly and rearranged everything. And this can happen. It happens to me all the time. Unexpected news or a disappointment or a stress or a change. I mean, this year has been really, really challenging and filled with a lot of change. So somewhere along the way, you stopped maybe checking with yourself altogether. And maybe some of you listening felt proud. And that's great. I cheer for you because I would love to be in that space. And this is what happens to us when we meet up on Mondays for our group coaching. And I hear my colleagues and my friends sharing their goals, their achievements, and I'm so, so happy for them. I'm honestly happy for everyone who can achieve their goals because I know how much work it can be. So if you achieved already some of your goals, it means that you made progress. You survived difficult moments and you actually done hard things already this year. Great for you. I honestly have no idea what I'm doing this year anymore. And do you know what? Both are completely okay. It took me a little while to get around because as an A-type person, I'm an achiever and I definitely love output. And if I see myself in a place where I don't generate output, I can be really, really harsh with myself. So because life rarely unfolds in straight lines, as we know, and sometimes the middle of the year gives us something really valuable, a pause, a chance to stop for a moment, breathe before rushing into the next 6 months. So let's take a moment together today. And maybe you want to get ready with pencil and paper, grab some water or a nice cup of tea, and let's get started.
Hello, and a warm welcome to my podcast show, Your Fertility Counselor. I'm your host, Tanya Fessler, and together we will dive into all things fertility, offering support, expert insights, and practical evidence-based advice for anyone navigating their fertility journey. So grab a cup of tea and make yourself comfortable. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome back to today's shows. I'm so glad you're here because I don't know about you, but I really love reflection. I love doing a review. And the reason why I love it so much is because it always gives me an opportunity to learn more about myself, my style, learn more about like how to tackle things really. So June is the perfect month to do this because at some point in time, we all break off into different directions for our holidays, maybe, or just like planned weekends. Sometimes we have lots of weddings lined up or anniversaries or anything can happen, right? June, July, August always seems to be like those busy months. So Welcome back and thank you for being here. And if you are new, welcome. Welcome to this episode. I'm glad you're here. And if someone shared this series with you, it means that this resonates maybe with you. And I really hope that there is something in for you to take away today because it's going to be a hands-on episode. So today I want to talk about something that brings us gently really together. It's not a performance review, not the one that you maybe are used to work, and it's not pressure filled like, where should I be by now? Nobody's here to criticize you at all. And it's just a real check-in. It's a human check-in. It's just for yourself. For me, for you, there is so much in there. So because I think so many of us go through life constantly adjusting and responding and coping without ever pausing to ask yourself, how am I really? What matters in this question is because if you ask a friend, how are you? You can easily land into a small talk conversation. But what I found out is like when I meet with a friend and I ask that question first and they will go like, yeah, all is good. Like busy, busy. And then I look at them and I say again, so how are you really? And that brings the whole conversation into such a depth that you would never expect. So today it's about how are you really? How am I really? So let's check in and reflect on what that means. I think it becomes even more important when life doesn't go according to plan. Like me, actually, I planned for 2026 already in December. And I felt so great about it because when I hit January felt like, whoa, this is like a bonus month because I'm ready already to tackle 2026. I don't have to do any groundwork because I've done it in December and here I am and I'm ready to fly. But it can actually take twists and turns. Twists and turns for everybody. For those that are on a fertility journey, for example, but also for others that are on a career path. Or like others that have maybe to look after their parents. Or maybe those empty nesters where the kids have gone off to universities and they are living their own life. So it's a multitude of different journeys that we are dealing with. So today's episode, we acknowledge the fact that this is very much focused usually on fertility, but there is something in for everybody, really. So I want you to really think broad, not just for those being on a fertility journey, but for everybody. But if we now take up the fertility stream, timelines become bloated because you thought maybe you'd be pregnant by now. And calmer or clearer. And maybe you imagined yourself in a completely different place emotionally. And instead, you are tired, maybe, or you're still waiting, and maybe even still trying to figure out things. So sometimes something else starts happening quietly underneath. And we begin living in ways that don't fully align anymore with who we believe we are or how we want to feel even. And maybe we keep saying, I'm fine, busy, but fine. And we are actually quite exhausted without really acknowledging that fact. And maybe we've become also disconnected from the things that once grounded us. Maybe we are constantly busy, but emotionally checked out. That is something that I can really sense with some of my friends. They are physically here and they're standing in front of me when I'm talking to them, but they are like mentally totally somewhere else. And they look exhausted. You can see it in their face. if someone looks exhausted or if someone has checked out. So the discrepancy that can be created is called the cognitive dissonance. It's an uncomfortable mental tension that arises when your actions don't align with your self-image or your values. And you can really feel it. For those of you who have a very good mind-body connection, or we call it also somatically connected, those ones would feel it in your body. There is like a vibration level in our body that is giving us the sign when something is kind of like off or it doesn't feel aligned. You can sense it. If you are sensitive like me, I would always sense it in my body. So honestly, that tension can feel incredibly draining. And because a part of you knows something is off, and even if you can't fully explain it. And that's actually the tough part, because sometimes I really have to get writing. So I use my journal every day. And then it starts out with this feeling I'm feeling in my body, and I can't really like figure out what it is. And so what I do is I would start to describe it and start to say like how it makes me feel. And this then ultimately unfolds like an onion, or in a better way, like a beautiful flower, maybe a lily, to really help us to connect with that emotion, but also with the reason why. Where is this coming from? So today, instead of rushing into solutions, I want to invite you into a reflection. So it's not a place of judgment. It's really a place that you don't have to fix yourself, nothing. It's more just like to gently reconnect with who we actually are. And which is so important because it's all about this authentic being. When you are authentic with yourself, but also with others, that's what feels so aligned. And that's how you connect with other people. That's when you start exchanging energies without seeing them, of course. So it's a beautiful exchange, one of the most beautiful ones, actually. So let me offer you a few questions today. You don't need to answer them all right now. It's just really more prompts, maybe one of them simple ways for you to take away and to reconnect. So I've been reflecting on a couple of these questions. I just wanted to share them with you because I found them so interesting on how the writing evolves around it. So I highly suggest to you to write your thoughts and your reflections down by hand, not by computer, just pencil and paper. You can use a notebook or you can use simple blank pages, whatever suits you well. You don't have to keep it. If you want to throw it away afterwards, you can. Sometimes there is something valuable in there that you want to maybe keep because, like me, sometimes I get the best ideas out of reflection and the best learning. So I want to start with is like, what has been taking most of my emotional energy lately? It can be yesterday. It can be last week, this month, or the past few weeks or month. What has taken you emotional energy? Just write down a few bullet points for yourself, what that could be. Maybe it was a situation at work or a relationship with a family member, with your partner, with a friend, a colleague at work, at school, with a teacher, children. And then what part of your life currently feels most out of alignment? We often like to talk about pillars, and I usually draw like pillars and put the rooftop over it, like my house. And one of the pillars would be like my relationship, my family, another one. Another one is for my social environment, my friends. Another one is for my job and career. Another one could be like my hobbies. Another one could be my health. So you have all these different pillars. And the question is like, which of these pillars feels most out of your alignment right now? And of course, we need to know our values when we talk about alignment, because we are taking a status quo and benchmark that against our values. So we had an earlier episode about values. And if you are not very sure about your own values, you may want to revisit that episode where we were talking about values so that you get your set of values, which is super important to have and revisit on a regular basis. And then the next prompt could be like, have I been surviving or truly living? Versus truly living. And maybe you want to get it right in thinking like, what is truly living to me? To me, it is when I feel aligned and I feel like I'm living a life based on my values each and every day, because that's what makes me actually thrive. And so surviving would mean to me that I'm disconnected to my values partially and just living like kind of like from one little island to the next, but not really connected. I'm just trying to like do the fire. I'm just trying to kind of like do some last minute kind of things. And then maybe even like come to the reflection of like, how much time have you spent in these areas? I mean, it's okay to be in stress and in survival mode every now and then. We all have that. But then the question is like, is it an everyday basis? And is the survival more than 50% of your day? That's where I would have some alarm bells ringing. And this is like maybe something that you really want to highlight and put on your radar to look at it. And then what have I been avoiding because it feels uncomfortable? It could be avoiding, it could be procrastinating, it could be like just assuming that it's not there. I'm really good in that. So everyone does it, but it doesn't help because at some point in time, it comes into your face. So I say sometimes you have to really face the situation, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable. And in the word uncomfortable, I also feel it helps actually when I start to dissect that word of uncomfortable. So first of all, to find out like where in my body does it feel uncomfortable? And what is it really? And very often it's actually fear. Or the other thing could be sadness. So it's really, really interesting in where such reflection can bring us. And just by helping us to connect with that can be so comfortable, so reaffirming and soothing, because then finally I'm not dealing with the unknown, but I know what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with my own fear. And that alone can really, really help to acknowledge it. And then another prompt could be like, what do I keep telling others that may not actually be true for me anymore? So, what is it that I'm sharing with others? What am I hearing myself saying or talking about or sharing with others that isn't even true anymore for me? And what has generally brought me moments of peace or joy this year? This is really important to know that because you want to replicate that over and over again. The more peaceful and calm you feel, the more clarity you get, and the better you can connect to your values, your goals, your milestones. You will be on that straight line. And even if change happens, then you're unshakable because you feel so strong. So that's what you want to focus. So it's really good to get to know what your little islands of peace or calm. And this is something, the next one is something that I ask myself almost every day, like what version of myself am I going to be today? And which version of myself has been neglected recently? Maybe you hear yourself nagging all of a sudden or criticizing or using more negative language, which is maybe not even you. It's not part of your personality, but there you are, and you hear yourself talking in more negative language. And when I hear myself doing that, I know something is off because that's not me. And that helps me then to find out, like, hold on a moment, which part of me am I neglecting? Which part of me have I sent into the bottom drawer or any basements level so that I can actually call this person up again and say like, hey, I want to have you on my team back again. Don't want to send you to the basement level. And where am I being too hard on myself? For me, this is definitely when I'm not achieving my goals. I can be so harsh, super harsh to myself. And also, each and every day, I would set the benchmark so high up for myself that I almost cannot reach it, or very seldom I reach it. And that I had to really reflect and learn about it because it's not doing you good. It's not helpful. And I would never do it with one of my team members, by the way. But to me, I would be like the harshest and the more criticizing person. So in the May episode, I was talking about treating yourself like your best friend. Believe me, I'm still on the learning curve on that one. I try as much as possible to treat myself as my best friend, but it doesn't work out every day because sometimes I can be quite annoyed with myself. So yeah, that's human being. That's human being and just acknowledging the fact in my evening pages, when I do the evening reflection and reflect on my daily wins and also for what am I grateful for, I also try to put something in that is kind and nice to myself. And in that context, also, what are maybe the expectations, some of the expectations that I need to let go of? Because if I keep holding on to them, maybe it's not helpful because of them creating even more pressure, where actually I'm trying to release the pressure, or where it actually gives me more frustration than joy. So I always say having expectation is okay, but having them in such a balance so that you feel really motivated. It makes you jump out of your bed. It makes you feel really good about yourself. And then what would feeling emotionally grounded actually look like for me? Like grounding yourself and feeling that you're really grounded How would that feel to you when you are emotionally so connected? And there is a simple exercise. And you can use that as a little anchor when you get out of your bed. Just take a little moment to place both feet flat on the floor. That's your first connection with Earth. Very first one after waking up. And I always feel like when I do this, I'm anchored. And I even imagine it to be anchored to Mother Earth and to be ready for the day. So maybe this could be like a little helpful exercise to do. Not even exercise, it's just like a movement. And then something that can be sometimes challenging is like to give yourself permission to maybe change your mind around it. Change your mind about like how you want to perceive yourself, how you want to redirect yourself, because we cannot control changes that are happening around us. They happen, and it's normal. And it happens to everyone, to you, to me. But what you can change is how you want to perceive it. And this could be your prompt. How do I want to feel instead when things change around me? Because I know how they can be frustrating, how they can make us feel really angry and disappointed. So go with that. And something that really helps me as well to think about, like, which people do I want to be surrounded by? And which people maybe better take a step back? People go through different phases of their life, and we don't know what's happening in their life, but we can sense the energy. And some people are really doing us good, and we can feel the positive energy, the great exchange with each other, and we walk away after a conversation with them feeling really uplifted and feeling good about ourselves. And then there are other people where we can spend maybe 10, 15 minutes, and all what it feels is really, it's draining mentally, draining physically. If you can sense that, this is the crowd you want to stay away from. Definitely. These are people that you just want to keep at distance. It may or may not be that these people may change. Maybe they are just going through a very difficult time right now, and we acknowledge that everyone can have those difficult times. But if you feel it's very difficult for you to handle, it's your choice. And you have one. So take it. And then sometimes we are also in this place in life where we really crave for something. Like I just had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was like, I feel I'm functioning each and every day. I just feel I'm taking each morning my to-do list, and then I'm just checking all the items that I have on my to-do list. In the evening, I prepare the to-do list for my next day and so forth. So it feels really functioning. And I said like, well, what is missing? What are you craving for? And she said like, the unexpected. I just feel I want to have like some unexpected events happening in my life. And the next thing that happened was like a friend of her reached out to her and asked her, hey, spontaneously time for a coffee? And she said yes. And she broke out of it, out of that functioning, out of that autopilot that was going on in her life. And she said like, it was so great to just break out of that daily routine of going through my to-do list and just do something that was not planned. But it felt so good about it, and I felt so much in control of it. And maybe that's another reflection that could be helpful. And then the last one, which is a real important one. So being in June now, and we still have the whole month of June to prepare. take the time in June to start thinking about what do I need in the next 6 months, not from a pressure point of sight, not from anything, but from the point of self-respect. What are the things that I want to see happening? And what are the things that I don't need around? I don't need them to be around because it's draining or it's like standing in my way, whatever. So I'm really curious to hear how this goes with you, because when I did mine, it was so incredibly insightful and so much again to take away from it. So much learning. And that's what I really hope you can take away as well today. So maybe, yes, some of these questions can feel uncomfortable. That's okay. They can feel uncomfortable. And the only person who sees them and who writes about it is you. So you don't have to share it with anyone. If you feel you want to share it with me, please reach out and share it. I would love to read your reflection. So discomfort is not always a sign that something is wrong, actually. It's something that's simply giving you a sign that something important is asking for our attention, which is completely okay. So maybe just sharing a few reminders here as well to take away. The first thing is you are not behind. I felt like that a couple of weeks ago, and I just felt like, okay, I need to change something about it. And that's why I went through my reflection. And I came to the conclusion that life is not a race. It's really not. It's actually growth. Even though it's not always visible, we also grow when we don't achieve goals. And sometimes this growth could look like getting through difficult days when you want to stay in bed instead, learning to ask for help, not an easy one, continuing after a disappointment, get up again. And these all count too. Absolutely. Another one is that progress does not always look the way that we've imagined. Not at all. And I keep saying it's about progress and not perfection. And I really, really had to learn it the hard way. Maybe this year changed you in ways you didn't expect. And not just you. So keep in mind, it's changing a lot of people. And it's challenging maybe for a lot of people. You may stand at a bus station or at the MRT or anywhere, or sitting in a cafe, and left and right, you are surrounded by people. And maybe these people are going through challenges as well. And we have simply no clue in that moment. Just to be aware of it. And this can sometimes be an opportunity for us to become more honest with ourselves and more aware. And then the beauty happens. This is when we start to become more resilient. Resilience is the thing you want to have, I tell you. So we don't become resilient if we walk away from challenges, but when we start facing them, dissecting them, and starting to try to make sense of it. So even if life doesn't yet look like the way you hoped, but there is always something in there. There's always this little golden nugget, I tell my client, that we want to get. And the last one is that clarity comes very often from pausing and not pushing harder. Because when you continue to push, you might actually push without knowing what you are really pushing. Instead of when you take a pause, you gain so much more clarity. So you don't need to force all the answers today. And sometimes the most healing thing to do is to slow down enough to hear ourselves again. And maybe this could be another thing to do, to read really all your reflections out loud to you and record it on a device and then check in again on a regular basis. So that could be another way on how to stay connected with your reflections. So before we close today, I'd love to guide you through a small mid-year reset exercise. So if you can, take a deep breath in now and gently place both your feet down onto the ground. Feel that connection. Feel how your feet feel so connected to earth, grounded. Sometimes it even makes us feel really stable. And sometimes I would try to visualize even roots growing out of my soles and really digging deep into earth. That's when I need even more support to feel grounded. I would add the roots. And then ask yourself quietly, what do I want to carry with me in this second half of this year? Perhaps it's courage. Perhaps it's feeling grounded and connected. Perhaps it's feeling honest or pausing. Perhaps it's feeling like setting up boundaries. Or it could be hope. It could be even love. It could be fun. It could be feeling light. Whatever sounds that you can connect. Whatever sounds the most resonating with you. That's the thing. And maybe you want to write it down and have that word for the second half of the year. You know, there was an exercise we did in one of our episodes earlier this year where we actually choose the word of the year. And someone asked me lately and said, like, do I really need to stick to that word? Because I feel I lost connection with that word. So I prompted her and said, like, why don't you want to journal about it first and see, like, what's your connection that is still remaining with that word? And if there is no connection at all, then choose a different word. Who the heck is telling us that we need to stick to the same word for the full year? If that word doesn't resonate with you anymore, choose a different one. It's your choice. You have it in your control. And then really ask yourself, like, turning the blank page, new chapter now, second half of the year. What are the things you want to leave behind? Because now you build an experience over the first 6 months of 2026. And maybe there were things happening or the way you reacted, emotions that came in, whatever it was that you feel like, you know what, I need to have closure on this. So I give myself permission to let go of that quarrel. I let go of whatever happened in these first 6 months, the disappointment. I don't want to hold on to that anymore. And then let it go. And looking at like the new word maybe for 2026, or what you want to bring in for the second half, plus what you just let go of, then think about like, what's the first small thing I want to do this week that is bringing me towards that version of myself I want to be in this next 6 months. And so we can then start to mentally and emotionally prepare ourselves for the second half of 2026. And it can really reboost our motivation, but also make us feel really good about ourselves. So take that with you. And I hope there was something in here for you that was worth the time listening to this episode, that you felt like that was really worth it. And I'm so happy I took the time and I grabbed a pencil and a paper and I made some notes, because you can gift yourself the best with your own presence. When you give that quality presence to yourself, this is the best gift that you can give yourself. So I'm glad if you reached that, if you did it today. And if not, then maybe it wasn't the right timing or the right setup for you. And this episode is available to you at any point in time. You can always come back and revisit it. And if you feel that there was like something in there that really felt this is like for my best friend, or I want to share this with my mom or mother-in-law, my sibling, my sister, my brother, then please go ahead and share it. You know how much I care about like spreading the word. And I feel so grateful about everybody that helps me to do that, because all what I want is for everybody here to feel I'm not alone. And you are not. You are not alone, because we are all here to bundle this right energy and bring it on to you. So with that, thank you so much for taking the time, and I shall see you next week again. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Fertility Counselor podcast. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. If you need support or have any questions, reach out to us via email at inquiries@counselingconnects.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Fertility Connects. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to learn more about us and the services we offer, head to www.fertilityconnects.com. And if you're looking for support beyond fertility, visit www.counselingconnects.com. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.